So we don't have a lot of questions. We have a few questions we will ask you and give you an opportunity to kind of let the membership and others who want to come on and see this just to know kind of what you're standing for and kind of what you're running on in terms of your campaign. So maybe just start with the typical easy question of just tell us a little about yourself.
Well, thanks, Michael. Let's see. Very quickly, I'm a graduate of George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I have a Bachelor of Business Administration in accounting as a major. My first job was with NRTA AARP, which is National Retired Teachers and the American Association of Retired Persons. So I worked with them with the Department of Labor. We had about $100 million in grants, and that was quite a while ago in D.C. Then I went to work for NASDAQ Inc. I was in charge of all the accounts receivable, accounts payable for all the broker-dealers nationwide. So, and we did a major version of computer systems. So at both NRTA, that was right when computers were becoming the big thing, because when I was in college, we had these rooms full of computers. And then as it grew and became PCs or, well, you know, big machines, I was involved in a lot of conversions during my career. So I went to NASDAQ. Then during a snowstorm in Washington, D.C., we got the opportunity to move to Key West, Florida. So who wouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Move to Key West. Interesting times in the 80s in Key West. I was actually the grants accountant when I started there. I worked on the cruise port grant, and I worked on redevelopment grants for the Pier House, which is a very prominent hotel down there. So I had some interesting things to do when I was in Key West. Through attrition, through some people leaving, through some unfortunate legal circumstances, I became the youngest appointed finance director at age 29 for the city of Key West. So I had fire, police, all of the accounting activity, financials, and everything for the city. And then we moved. Brief stint in New York, did not like the snow, did not like the cold, came back to Panama City. I worked for Bay Medical Center. So I was exposed to a lot of insurance and medical information that helped me in every aspect of my career. Then moved here in 1988. So I've been here a while. I was finance director for the sheriff for 16 years, under Don Hunter. And then Dwight talked me into coming over to the clerk's office in 2005. I came over as the director of finance and, well, actually I came over as the original director of internal audit, and the finance director resigned, and I became the director of finance and internal audit as an economic move, I guess. And then in 2016, Dwight made me chief deputy. And in 2018, when he unexpectedly passed away, I ran for office. I was appointed first by Governor Scott, but then I ran in that immediate election, and the voters supported me by a great margin, actually, in 2018. So I've been your clerk of courts and comptroller since 2018.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Did that do it? I don't want to talk too quickly, but
no, that's perfect.
Nutshell. So I have a lot of experience in a variety of industries and everything. So
it's very good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Nope.
So we would ask somebody who is the challenger of why are they running for office. I'll ask you, why do you want to continue to be in the office of the clerk of courts?
Well, I had a list of things I wanted to accomplish. And in 2 years, we don't have them all accomplished because of automation, because of COVID, because of some of these other things that have happened. I still have some things I really want to do. So as long as I'm excited about what there is to do, and I think I can offer those enhancements to the community, I am excited to stay in the role and make those happen over the next 4 years. We need to automate more of the probate, the jury process. With COVID, we've learned automation's the answer. And so I think I can move it into the next generation of where we need to be at the clerk's office. And I'd like to complete that.
Very good. Thank you.
One full term.
Gotcha. I'll let Jenna ask some questions.
Having served and watched this role over the so many years and served for 2. How do you view the role of the clerk, and sort of what is your approach to being the clerk of courts?
Well, that's a good question because we have a real diverse role. The clerk of has almost 1,000 activities. They say by statute, I have not personally counted each and every one, but there are a lot. It is very diverse and integrated. We are the clerk to the courts. And so from that role, the responsibility is custodian of all the records for the courts. When the evidence is submitted by the attorneys or the sheriff's office has the evidence, we then take custody of evidence. We're instrumental in issuing domestic violence injunctions. So we have a variety of roles with probate, child support, family law, all of the things that go on in the court systems. And our responsibility is primarily to facilitate the services of the courthouse. We call the jurors. We don't administer the jury box. We're not responsible for naming the jurors. We do pull the jury list from a Supreme Court authorized random program. And so every eligible juror is submitted to this program, and it has to be approved by the Supreme Court. So we have some great responsibilities to facilitate all the activities of the courtroom. I have a clerk of courts in most of those rooms to help the judges and all the paperwork. But we're pretty much paperless now, which is the great news in the courtrooms. We work on, the judges have a system, the clerk has a system, and most of that information is available to the public if it's a public record type work. So we've put those on, those have been on the website. The clerk to the board is what probably a lot of your members would be familiar with. That's as our auditor role and as comptroller. Some people don't know, though, we also do the accounting for the supervisor of elections by contract because Jennifer has a smaller group most of the time, not in national election years, but because she has a smaller group of people, it's easier for us to contract and help her with those accounting things. But we're also responsible for all the bond and debt payment, the documents that go to the bonds and the lenders. We're responsible for the financial statements. Each constitutional officer creates their independent individual statement that's audited by an external auditor, but all of those roll up into the comprehensive annual financial, and that's prepared by our office. We also handle all of the grant reporting, not program, the county departments do that, and it's a complex integration. For example, utility billing does the billing, but all of that money in the custodian of funds is one of our other roles. So whether it's Parks and Recreation, Domestic Animal Services, Livingston Water Park, any of those activities all funnel to the clerk of courts so that we can make sure the financial statements are stated properly. And we've won awards for, I think it's like 34 years now. That's national through the Government Finance Officers Association. And we submit the financial statements each year, and they're reviewed by your peers and validated, and you have to reach a certain score to get the award. So we're proud of that.
Great. Great. You mentioned
that might have been a long answer. So
no, that's great. There's no such thing.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned you had accomplished.
Oh, we have one other role. Could I add that? I don't
Yeah.
out because it's very important to your realtors, and we're the keeper of all the official records for the county. So we have records going back to 1923 when Collier County was developed, and we are the keeper of marriage licenses, deeds, mortgages. All of your important paperwork is at our office. And again, we've made that available online. So if it's public record.
Great. Well, you mentioned that there's still things you want to accomplish. So if you're reelected, what's maybe the one major or one big change you want to make to clerk's operations?
Well, it's somewhat of a combination. It's automation and outreach. What I found in 18 is that a lot of people in Collier County had no idea what the clerk's office does. And if they don't know what we do, they can't use our services to their advantage, nor can they maybe understand what it takes to be in the clerk's role. So I've kind of made it a point to go out and do a lot of meetings with homeowners associations and other groups to let them know what we have available in our office. We've redone the website to make it a little more robust or friendly. I call it with the easy buttons. And we've put as much information there as we can, but we're honing that. We're doing implementation videos to try to walk people through those moves. We created a Pro Se Center, which means self-help, do it yourself, so that you don't need an attorney for some of those small claims and those things. So we have a center, but you can do most of it online. And so I think the most important thing is to take what's already paperless or online, but take it that next generation to the mobiles, to make it more user-friendly. The things is notice of commencements, very important to people at the chamber, and construction. Right now, it's a labor-intensive process. They usually carry paper from growth management to our office. We're looking at e-certification, where once we get that and get it validated, because we have to go through a lot of processes with the court, Supreme Court, in allowing us to do some of these things, or the legislature and allow us to do these things. But I think we can get it to where we can make what is already automated or paperless even more robust to be flexible with mobile and make the field ready. So that would be one of my primary goals, but it has to be in combination with outreach, because I can automate and automate, and if no one knows what we're doing, so I have to continue the outreach to the public so they know it's available, for example, on our website.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, as you said, most people sort of recognize the clerk as the clerk to the board, and that relationship is so important. Could you talk a little bit about your relationship with the board and your approach to dealing with, and your staff's approach to dealing with the commission and the commission staff and county staff?
Oh, well, I will say this. I think we have a much, much better relationship than in the past. This is probably the easier of the board. I've known Commissioner Fiala, Commissioner Saunders for probably 30 years. I've known Commissioner McDaniel for quite a while. A couple of them have endorsed me for this position for clerk because of those long-term relationships. I meet with all of the commissioners prior to board meetings to go over the agenda items that we think might be problematic when I get the bill to pay, and we're trying to resolve those. And I know that I've worked with you in the chamber, Michael, on contracting and some of those issues, trying to facilitate that up front before we come into a payment problem or before it comes contentious. That's been my goal over the last couple of years. And even before that, I mean, I've been speaking with the commissioners probably, most of the 15 years, but this group is far more receptive to sitting down, I think, and talking about the issues that we have in front of us and facilitating. As a matter of fact, right after this, I've got in a meeting with one of the commissioners, Commissioner Taylor, regarding the CARES Act and all the money that's coming forward into the county, because that's going to have to be a large part of working together. They'll facilitate the program, they'll create the program, and we have to do the processing, as well as their departments have to process. So I see it as good. I mean, are we going to have things that we disagree on? Of course we are. That's the nature of sometimes the role of the auditor. But I think we've been able to work through anything that has been a bump or that we've disagreed on and try to make it productive. So that's my goal moving forward.
Great. I'll let Michael, I know we have a couple more questions. I'll let Michael take it from here.
Thanks. So obviously representing the business community and the role and the interplay between the clerk of courts and business, how do you see that role? How do you envision the role between the business and the clerk of courts, and how do you kind of see that going forward?
I'll tell you, I was actually thinking about that even harder before this interview, because one of the things that we had done back when the criticism when Dwight was still here, we sat down with CBIA and Kathy Cortolo, and tried to work through particularly the construction and the vendor works.
Right.
Now, for example, the sports complex. I have a member of finance and accounting goes to the meetings with the contractors, and then we see what they're doing. We understand the nature of their paperwork, and we're able to say, oh, okay, this is what I would need to pay you. So interjecting earlier in the process caused a little bump, I know, with Florida Gulf Coast, but that really was the intent, is that if we can work with the vendors, once the board has said this is the contract we're making, then I see our role to help facilitate that legally and bring to the board's attention anything we see in a negative content. But the one idea I had and I thought we should do is maybe get back to that, because we met with CBIA, we worked through those. So now we're not having, or we're not hearing problems with payment. We try to work with each vendor as they're brought on board. But just in general, the things like the notice of commencement issue, that came to us just because at the counter I was hearing, I have to bring it here, I have to bring it here. And then under COVID, the constraints to the offices. So taking some of those services out to the satellites where it's more accessible, but most importantly, maybe we should start a couple committees with members of the chamber, members of CBIA, members of NABOR and the board and realtors. Have a user group, a consistent user group, or a rotating user group where we can get the ideas, because everything I do is to serve the public. That's really my primary job, whether it's courts, whether it's the board, whether it's recording their information in detail, we're service. And if they don't understand what we do or know how we can facilitate it, if we don't understand that, we can't make it better. So I was really thinking we should start a joint user group among those factions. We can think of where we can go forward, what would best serve them on mobile applications, or where should I locate my next satellite, those kinds of things to help them.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well,
Sometimes having these makes you think.
Well, it does. That's what this is all about. Yeah.
Well, we did it before, but we had a big problem. Now we didn't have a big problem, but why let it get to a problem? If we do it proactively now, I think we'll be better off. So.
No, good approach.
Go.
So as we conclude, are there any other points you want to bring up? Anything that we didn't ask that you want to make sure that that individuals know as they consider the vote?
Well, I think it's important to let them know how I support the chamber, and I think I know you know that, but obviously having to postpone the youth leadership this year, and I think we're on 16. That's kind of our heart. I know that Donna McNiven, who started it, this was her dream, and we facilitated that, and we certainly want to see that going forward. I've tried to support the chamber in events, and I really like the mentoring and working with the business. I've been through Leadership Collier. I actually went through Leadership Institute, which they haven't had available for a while, but I thought that was great. As a matter of fact, Sheriff Hunter at the time, it was right after I went to Leadership Institute that I moved over to work for Dwight, and he said, I knew I shouldn't have paid for that class. And, because it did motivate you. It made you think more. Sure. So I would like them to know that I do support the chamber. I support its members, and I've lived here since '88. My daughter was born here. My son was 3+ when we moved here. So this is home. And
well, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thanks for all you do, and thanks for working with us on the chamber side as well. And particularly, I appreciate your understanding as we go forward with Youth Leadership Collier. This is a kind of a challenging time and just a lot of different considerations, but thanks for supporting that decision.
Well, I think their experience will be better if we can get more people, because part of that whole experience is meeting the people in the community and understanding who they are and what everyone does. And Zoom, while I like seeing you guys and I appreciate the opportunity to get on Zoom, it's really the same, I think. So I think we can make it better however we end up doing this year's class.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well,
thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Crystal.
And I'm glad we worked out the camera.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a
you.
great day.
Yes,
you.
bye.
Bye-bye.